and welcome to the second Boxing City radio show. I'm Arvin Nundloll, and I've got my co-host Bryan Graham live from Las Vegas with me today.
We're still around. We're still here.
Yeah, we're still here. We made it to show number 2. Lots to look forward to. I promised you a guest, and you've got 3 now. So, lucky you.
3?
Yeah, it doesn't get better than that.
Oh my God.
We had a fun time in the Garden, the Mecca of boxing. We're going to talk about Ali and Santana. The main event, Klitschko Jennings, Golovkin was around, and Chris Algieri, our guest that we promised you, and he delivered. So, lots to look forward to.
Hands of Stony Brook.
Yeah, he Long Island native, that boy. He represents New York quite well.
Yes, he sure does.
So, yeah, he's a great guy as well. So, firstly, we'll get started with the recent boxing from New York City, the Mecca of boxing, Madison Square Garden. We were treated to a couple of decent fights. We start off with Saddam Ali against Francisco Santana. Brian, lots of controversy in terms of the scoring once again. Although it was fairly...
In boxing?
Yeah, in boxing.
Controversy over the scoring? The decision?
Who would have thought? Yeah, problems.
Still my heart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ali did enough, I feel. He got the victory. He took a bit of a beating. He was the weaker man in terms of putting up with Santana's shots. And
Santana, you looked at how he rehydrated.
Well, he was big.
22 pounds above. You knew it was going to be a tough night for Ali once you saw that, you know?
Yeah, he came in, I want to say close to 160 pounds.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's you're putting on some muscle there, so.
It's Gaddy-like.
Yeah, and he kept it up for 10 rounds, I want to say, and Ali was lucky to come out of just the ice bag and nothing worse.
Yeah, oh man, that was I don't know. It was it's not always going to be a perfect day at the office, and you got to learn how to sort of get through those tough nights. And I think that's what Ali did. You know, you book it, you get the victory, you move on to the next. I think that's where we're at. Yeah,
and where does Ali go next from this?
Oof, that's a good question. What were they saying? I actually missed his press afterwards. Who are they targeting next for him?
Well, I'm not quite sure as well, because he went on straight after the main event, so I didn't get a chance to hear him either.
Yeah,
they were chucking him out, but he was going to take a bit of time off to heal, get back to himself. He's doing good, Saddam Ali. I want to say he's really stepped up his level of opposition. If he can keep this up,
I think Abregu, certainly his most recent fight before this, was a huge step up for him, I believe, because just in class, certainly to the world class, the world kid, obviously, and I don't think it'll be too much longer before we're talking about him, going for a title. Yeah.
It's not too far away, I want to say. And we move to the main event, a Philadelphia native, Bryant Jennings, one of your own.
Yes, indeed. I wrote his story for The Guardian last week. Bryant Jennings, this time last year in August, a building mechanic at the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia. This fight for the heavyweight title was his first fight as a full-time boxer, believe it or not. Only had 19 professional fights, didn't start till he was 24. And I think, he had sort of stepped up last year with the decisions on HBO, wins over Arthur Spolska and Mike Perez. But, I think there were a lot of people that were really doubting his chances. Arvin, I think you might have been.
I strongly doubt his chances, and I'm happy to put my hand up. I thought he was going to get knocked out. I predicted the 4th round.
I think I believe you said I was wasting my time writing about him, which is fine. This is what I do.
Yeah, I would never talk bad about a fighter in that way, but I did think he wouldn't be able to put up with Klitschko. His power, the smaller ring as well, because Klitschko demanded that and he got it. He defied all odds, I want to say, by going 12 rounds and not sustaining a great beating at all. In fact, he managed to unload on Klitschko, get a couple of clean shots in. Not as aggressive though. That's the only problem. We blame Klitschko for his last fight at the Garden when he fought Abragamov, but I can't really blame him for this one. I feel as though Jennings was very defensive. He was looking to see out 12 rounds.
That's one way of looking at it. I'm not going to say he was necessarily taking the fight to Klitschko. I think that would certainly be going too far. But I do think, with maybe he ran out of gas. I mean, this is what I was saying to you on Saturday. In the 10th round, after the deduction in the 10th round, when they finally deducted a point, so the score through 10 rounds also accounting for the deduction. So basically, with 8 minutes left in the fight, I believe the scores were 86-84, 86-84, and maybe 88-82. So the fight was really still in the balance at that point. I think up until that point, even through 5 rounds, when Klitschko was up around 4-1, I thought Jennings was getting stronger. I thought he was looking better as the fight went along. And that's rare with Klitschko opponents, in my opinion, because I think there are guys that sort of come out fighting and then over time, as time goes on, sort of more or less give up and try and see it out. So I don't think that's what Jennings did. I think this was the first time Klitschko fought a guy in a while that was really sort of out there trying to solve problems and trying to win the fight, start to finish, in a sort of thoughtful, smart way. He didn't want to open himself and get knocked out. But I don't know. I guess, in the end, ultimately, Klitschko's class was just a little too much for him.
I feel he was good, but just not good enough. That jab of Klitschko, I tell you, it's when you see it live in person, you really see how much it just stops the action. It puts you to a dead stop. It causes you to think twice. And I think Jennings kind of ate it a couple of times. He went back. He went back to the ropes. Great footwork, great ring movement, but just not as aggressive to please the judges, I want to say.
Well, just as far as, people were, I heard people that were kind of writing off the fight and disappointed with it as far as the action and Jennings' performance being sort of a negative performance. Listen, it's about getting inside that jab, and I think it's very difficult. I think Klitschko does it incredibly well. He's very much sort of a product of Manny Stewart and sort of staying behind that jab, and he uses it incredibly well. And I guess it just comes down to, Jennings needed to find a way inside, and I guess that was the way he did it. And it might not have been the most he might not have won a lot of style points, but I think he was at a position where, he formulated a game plan, and that was the best way he had a chance to win.
Yeah, and not for lack of trying. Jennings put up a great effort. He did himself complete service in pretty much proving that he can compete at this level. And the fact that he can realistically go on and challenge for another world title in the near future, I want to say.
Yeah, I think he's going to win a lot of fights in the heavyweight division. Obviously Wilder is a bit of a wild card in the division as far as his power and physical tools, and some people would say Wilder, would be a better sort of candidate as a guy to beat Klitschko, but
and a flamboyant suit that night as well.
Yes, oh my lord, that suit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think ultimately Jennings, if you could put Jennings' brain and in what we saw from him mentally in the physical package of Deontay Wilder, maybe that's the sort of recipe, because I'm not sure we've seen necessarily yet how Jennings would react to being in a ring with a fighter of that class, because to date, Bermane Stiverne is the best competition he's faced by far.
Yeah, and it was kind of a different Bermane Stiverne, although you could argue that that's as good as it was going to get for him.
Yes, I would not argue against that.
Yeah, well, luckily we had time to speak to both Klitschko and Jennings after the fight, and this is what Jennings had to say. So I'll play that for you now.
Cue up the tape, Arvin.
Yeah, we'll do. And here's Bryant Jennings.
Let's say looking forward, what has this fight taught you? How could you improve going forward now? Going 12 rounds with Klitschko?
What did it teach me? If I had any doubts in myself, it actually proved something. it proved that I have what it takes. Teaching, I really can't answer that question right now because I actually have to watch and see some of the things that I've repeated from previous fights, and see some things that I could have actually changed and actually did.
So very humble Jennings. He probably said he's glad that he can compete at the level, and he's glad that he proved to himself that he could go 12 rounds, which is a great feat against Wladimir Klitschko. Not many do it. So
yeah, I would agree with that. And yes, another thing, it says a lot about Wladimir Klitschko that and how good he is, that so much is being said about Bryant Jennings for a guy that basically won 4 rounds. I do think we were grading Jennings on the curve a little bit, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and Wladimir, we also caught up with Wladimir, who had a lot to say about the point deduction and gave us some pretty much hope that his next fight will be somewhat better. He agreed and accepted that he'll be fighting Tyson Fury, and this is what Klitschko had to say.
We can talk about it a lot, and I believe any complaints after losing fights doesn't going to be received well. I don't want to complain about taking my points out from the referee. That's referee's job. Whatever the counting was by the other judges during the fight, that's their job. I did my job. So you guys can judge and enjoy it, and important to me that it was deserved win, and important that Klitschko's stories continue.
Your wife is sitting ringside tonight, so I'm sure you haven't seen your family in a while. Is there any special plans that you have now that you're done with training camp?
Well, I got used to fighting and to relaxing after the fight, and with my lifestyle, obviously I'm going to take time off from boxing, enjoy my family. I've been missing them during the camp, and get ready for the next match.
And on that point, so your next match, you said it's going to be Tyson Fury. Can you tell us how different that's going to be compared to this fight? You're fighting a bigger man, a very vocal opponent.
I believe that this fight with Tyson Fury is going to look different. Through the size difference, Tyson Fury is taller than me. He's definitely the guy that is ambitious, and I think it's going to be exciting. He's going to engage into the fight. It was not much engagement from Jennings today through his certainly partially defending style. But I think that Tyson Fury fight is going to be really, really exciting. So I'm looking forward to it. We'll find out when the fight is going to happen, which month and where. But that's the job for the next weeks to figure it out.
You fought an American here in America. Would you be willing to go to England to fight Tyson Fury?
I'm absolutely open to fight anywhere. And it depends now with all the negotiations, and it was obviously some clarification which from the sanctioning bodies have to call it as a mandatory, WBO or WBA. So it was called from WBA that Tyson Fury is the next mandatory. So accordingly to the rules, so hopefully we're not going to get to the first bid, and so it depends a lot from the ruling where the fight.
So very, I want to say graceful, Wladimir Klitschko. He accepted that the points deduction was pretty much open for interpretation. What did you think there, Brian?
I mean, just as far as his demeanor, just sort of pulling back a little bit wider. I mean, this is a guy that I think really sort of understands the responsibility and the meaning of being heavyweight champion of the world. It's a guy that, I don't know. I mean, obviously, it looks like Tyson Fury is next for him. It seems like he would be willing to do that fight in Great Britain if it made sense for them. He is a very gracious character, and I think he is a very good ambassador for the sport, even if he isn't necessarily the most popular champion on American soil.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, would you agree with that?
I think he's a great ambassador for the sport and often overlooked, top 3, top 4 pound for pound.
Yeah, I would say that for sure. I mean, and certainly when you look at how, from the sort of ruin of his sort of mid-career, when he was sort of getting beaten by fighters that today, wouldn't even sort of be able to touch him, but how he was able to sort of just rebuild himself from the ashes and turn into this basically bulletproof figure, atop the heavyweight division. Just very, very, very impressive job.
Yeah, and slowly approaching Joe Louis's record, I want to say.
I know. I mean, it seems like it's a bit of a stretch to get all the way to 25, which, by the way, is the record for any division, not just the heavyweight division. But, yeah, I mean, this was his 18th consecutive title defense. I guess he's fighting, every
3-4 months, I want to say now.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like he started just to, fight a little bit more frequently. So 3 times a year. What would that take him to? He just turned 39. So
39 as well. That's an old age to be keeping up at this level.
To tie it, I mean, honestly, I thought he looked, and I'm not taking anything away from Jennings here because I thought Jennings was magnificent, but I do think he, and I wrote this for The Guardian, I do think he maybe showed the very, very earliest hints of decline in this fight. And I wonder, he certainly isn't wanting for money because, he's a massive superstar and he has been for some time overseas, certainly in Germany. And, you can't just help but wonder, maybe, fight Fury, fight Wilder, unify the titles, and call it a day? Is that too crazy to say?
I think with his conditioning, he probably could go longer, but you're right. What else does he have left to achieve at that stage?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just this record, which, by the way, I know he's mentioned it, but, sometimes it's like we seem a little bit more obsessed with that than he does. I know he has sort of explicitly mentioned it, but it doesn't seem like, it's not something he's talking about all the time, so I don't know. I mean, I sometimes I question how much that is his motivation for doing this. I don't know. I'm not sure how much longer he needs to be doing this. But
yeah, but I do know that the Tyson Fury fight, that's going to be an amazing fight. I don't see how it wouldn't live up to any of the hype.
Yeah, I mean, do you rate Fury in that?
I think Fury will hurt him, but I also think Wladimir will just be too much for him.
Yeah, I mean, Fury, obviously, I think physically, I guess he'd be. When's the last time Wladimir fought somebody bigger than him?
I can't even recall. I mean,
unless I'm forgetting someone obvious. I mean, when I say bigger, I certainly mean taller, but the weight is probably pretty close as well.
Yeah, and that's also an interesting thing. Klitschko said, he wasn't happy with the constant clinching, even though it could be debated that he was the one responsible, but he can't really do that against Tyson Fury.
No, he can't. But, again, when you talk about experience and you talk about, I don't know, I have to think I'd favor Klitschko in that fight.
Yeah, well, a great fight nonetheless, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah. Very much looking forward to it. It's looking since, in the days since this Klitschko-Jennings fight, it's looking more and more like that is going to be the one, and that should be interesting. I'm wondering where they're going to set it for and when, and bring it on. Yeah,
I mean they're discussing Great Britain, Germany. I would not mind it at the Garden, but that's me being selfish there.
Yeah,
and both have fought at the Garden. Don't forget, Tyson Fury defeated Steve Cunningham at the theatre.
Little afternoon fight.
Yeah. It's always
that was on NBC.
Yeah, and Michael Buffer was there.
Michael Buffer was there. Who could forget?
You know who else was at the Garden this Saturday? Gennady Golovkin.
Triple G.
Yeah,
Triple G in the house.
Always smiling, but you know that he could kill you, or he could just knock you out cold. So
that Triple G, he's a good boy.
Yeah, he nicest guy, one of the nicest guys in boxing, even though he's got one of the most devastating punches.
Yeah, absolutely. And the footwork, that footwork is just immaculate.
Oh yeah, we managed to catch up with Gennady. Actually, we did. Man, a few words, but whatever he said was menacing enough to put anyone pretty much on alert that he means business and he does not back away from any challenger. This is what Gennady had to say.
So Gennady, fantastic win against Martin Murray. Firstly, how did that make you feel coming off a convincing win like that?
I feel my fight. I remember my fight. Martin, he's a great champion. He's a strong guy. He's a smart guy. Not easy fight for me. Just after the second round of round number 4, I feel I'm with this fight because I can control this fight because it's finished. I have my coach every time she's on this spot, it's a bit tired, not quick because everybody coming to something. Not better. Everybody watch TV just practice.
And it looked like you were having fun after the 5th round. It looked like you were so comfortable that you were controlling the ring.
Not so. I don't have stress. I don't have fun. It's not easy fight.
You look so relaxed.
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose coming off that win, everyone had high expectations for you to go and try and compete against the Cossos, the Alvarez. After that win, what did you want next?
Right now my focus on really my goal. Not easy fight for me.
Why Willie Monroe? What did you see in him that you felt would make it a great fight?
He's a very smart guy. He won last year. SPM. Next watch the fight. It's not easy. Every fight not easy. Everybody says, maybe he's up. He's very good throwing. He's southpaw. Everybody has a problem with southpaw. Conor has a problem with southpaw. Canelo has a problem with southpaw. There's big southpaw.
And what can we expect from before that?
I think it's a great fight. Event. Not just my fight, just a big show. Because second fight is very good too. Chicago,
How are you getting better off every fight? What do you see yourself really
I know my situation. I know my situation. I know my business. I know my job. It's my job.
A no-nonsense Gennady Golovkin there. He feels no stress in the ring. Very relaxed.
Right to the point.
Yeah. And he knows his business. And I just keep thinking to myself, he doesn't really get any better than that. He's easily becoming one of the best middleweights of our time, I want to say.
I'm right with you on that. I'm right with you as far as just, who would you take? All right. We don't have to take it there. But I do think that what he's doing right now is very much, I'm more worried about him actually being able to get a big fight. I think he's too good to get a big fight at this point. It's crazy. Reminds you a lot of what happened with Hagler sort of in the late 70s.
Absolutely. In fact, I'm more inclined to say he's the undisputed middleweight champion, although I got a bit of stick because Cotto does have the other belt.
Yeah, he does, but how long is he going to have it? Because sooner or later, they do give you that voluntary sort of defense or whatever. But do we really think we're actually going to see Cotto in the ring with Gennady Golovkin? Because I certainly don't.
I think eventually we have to. If we are to accept world champions or boxers of the caliber such as Cotto and Canelo, they have eventually one of them has to take on Golovkin. You can't go by and claim to be the best in division if you're not fighting Golovkin, I feel.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what if you're... Listen, if you're going to... You're saying... Because who's saying that they're planning on campaigning at middleweight? I mean, obviously that really sort of is the suggestion, and that's what we sort of expect. But, you know, if he's planning on staying at, you know, 154... because certainly in the case of Cotto, you know, I don't think he goes up to fight for the lineal middleweight championship if it isn't, you know, sort of Sergio Martinez, who was himself very much, you know, could have fought at 154 pretty much up until the end. So I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say it takes the sheen off of Cotto if he, as long as he just vacates in a timely manner, you know, and doesn't drag it out any longer than he does.
Or Cotto can rise up to the challenge and take on Golovkin. That would prove to be a fantastic year of boxing, considering what we've already had.
Well, I would rather have Cotto Canelo, you know, fight it out for 154 supremacy.
I know who you won't have, which is Chavez Jr. So.
Well, I'm done with Chavez Jr. and besides, I don't think he can make it. I don't think he can make 154 at this point in his career.
Yeah, I don't know what weight he wants to make at this stage in his career. So, lots of soul searching for him.
Yeah. I mean, I believe it was our first show when I really rated Fonfara's chances in that
you
fight.
You did. I thought Chavez.
I might have even said he was going to win. We should go back and listen to that.
Yeah, no. If I recall, you did say Fonfara has a good chance of winning. I argued against that, saying Chavez kind of knows what he has to do. The pressure's on him. He wants a big fight, and I want to say he let himself down, but he did quit on his stall, which, as a as a Mexican fighter, you can't really do that.
Not a lot of Mexican fighters have done that and really come out on the other side looking okay.
Yeah. So lots of senior has to talk to him and ask him, you know, what does he really want next, which will be interesting. What weight he campaigns at.
I would love to be in the room for that conversation.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, everyone was in New York this weekend. We also have Chris Algieri, our guest. He called. He spoke to me, and he had some great things to say. This is a long one, around 7 minutes, but definitely worth a listen. He talks about pretty much fighting Khan, being the most recent person to fight Pacquiao, and what he's doing for his future fight coming up. So, well worth a listen. And I'll play that for you now. Cool. So, so firstly, tell us, you're the most recent man to fight Manny Pacquiao. What is that defeat taught you how to become a better fighter?
You know, I learned a lot from my prior experience, you know, just the way the sport works and what it's like to build up the magnitude of a fight, you know, like that. So, you know, it's giving me a heads up on the future dealing with a big fight. So that, you know, just that alone was incredible. I think it will help going forward. But also structuring camp, you know, for a fight of that magnitude, and then fighting someone with so much experience. So, you know, I learned a tremendous amount in every aspect of the sport. You know, from everything leading up to that fight and the fight itself. You know, whether he's overlooking me or not, you know, that would be a big mistake if he is. But, you know, I've been there. I fought the man that he wants to fight, you know, and I've been up at the top level, and he has not yet. You know, so in order for him to want to pursue, you know, those kind of fights, he's going to have to look for me. I mean, for the past year or so. World champion, and that's fun. I'm a world champion myself, so these are the guys that I belong with. I don't want to take a step back. I don't want to try and rebuild or anything like that. I don't think that's necessary. I think that I have recovered and will be able to put on a great show coming May 29th. I think they're both great fighters. I don't think that I've always leaned, towards Mayweather in that fight, more because I really think he was a much better fighter. But now that I've been in the ring with Pacquiao, I think I really truly understand how good of a fighter he really is. Pacquiao is a phenomenal champion, so it's two great fighters. But at the end of the day, it's lots of things, styles they fight, and just the way the styles match up. I think that's what has the advantage. I think that's going to show come this Saturday. Anything after boxing? Yeah, I think that's the victory. But I mean, the Pacquiao will put me with this incredible shape. He's been like that in years. So if he goes in there like that, I'm assuming he will, and he's able to make the fight interesting. And if Floyd has lost anything, I wouldn't be surprised if Manny could pull that up there. Yeah, I know. New York is my home. And Barclays is where I won my title. It was just over a year ago or just less than a year ago that I had a match night in the Barclays, fighting for a world title. So I've got feelings of how I felt last year, preparing for my big fight at the Barclays, and now we're there again. It just seems like everything's lining up.
Cool. And any closing words for Amir Khan? We're going to be speaking with him in a few weeks.
No, I just hope that his training goes well and he's ready to put on a great fight on May 29th.
Sounds great, Chris. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, how's training going as well?
Everything's been fantastic. I'm actually down here in Florida training with John David Jackson. It's our first camp together, and it's going phenomenal.
How is it?
It's surprising. I'll say that much. John is an incredible student of the game. He did a lot of studying of my case prior to me coming down. I came down a couple times early, even before we even had a fight in the works, just so I could meet and train with him. And we mesh well, and he kind of understands. He understands my style, I think, better than a lot of other people have. So he's trying to bring out some certain aspects that he knows are inside of me, and we're starting to show. So it's been interesting and actually fun, learning different aspects of the game and different aspects of myself.
What areas would you say you've really changed to bring new skills into your question?
It really bringing out kind of like athleticism and my ability to react, which I think, and I was talking to John, I've kind of handcuffed myself in the past on the fight being a little mechanical, a little more fluid. Like I said, use my background as being an athlete. Well, I guarantee it.
So, very confident, Algieri. Very humble this time as well. Very interesting what he said about, answering his critics.
Yeah, I mean, he was an overnight sensation, you would say. I would say that's a fair characterization.
Yeah, he seemed torn in half. He picked Mayweather, but he also said if that's the Pacquiao that came to fight him, and if he can be the exact same Pacquiao or better, he stands a great chance of causing an upset.
Well, I don't know what other Pacquiao was walking through that door, considering they only fought in November.
Yeah, fairly recent. Less than a year ago. Straight into it.
It's on the tip of everyone's tongue, that Mayweather Pacquiao fight.
It is, and that's we're going to be covering the Algieri Khan fight in depth in our next show. That will be at the Barclays Centre at the end of the month. But we take Algieri's words and we continue forward with the next 10 minutes, all about Pacquiao-Mayweather, or Mayweather-Pacquiao, depending on the promotion you're going with.
Yes, indeed.
So, Algieri raised some great points there about how, Floyd, he knows what to do. He's done it time and time again. Why should we expect anything different?
Well, that's a good question. I think maybe, from my point of view, what we saw with the last two fights, Floyd's first and second fight with Marcos Maidana, was, a fighter that Floyd, even just 3 years ago or so, that's a fight. Maidana was getting to Floyd, and I think Floyd had more trouble with Maidana than, say, Devin Alexander or Amir Khan, two fighters that really sort of had very one-sided wins over Maidana, with Khan, obviously, the exception of one round of that fight. But yeah, I don't know. I'm wondering if, both of these fighters have lost a little since their heydays, but you're wondering if Mayweather, I don't know. From my point of view, it's pretty close to a toss-up.
If anything, I see going to a points victory for Mayweather. And in fact, even if it's a close fight, I still would edge it to Mayweather. I just don't see how Pacquiao could win convincingly without a knockout.
Obviously Pacquiao hasn't had a knockout since 2009.
Yeah.
And
but both fighters since 2009. Yeah.
Well, obviously Mayweather did have the one little... The one little highly controversial stoppage against Victor Ortiz, which I believe was a little sooner or a little bit more recently. But yeah, no, I don't know. I guess ultimately, I'm just wondering. I don't know, a lot of things. Is Floyd? He's been so quiet during the build-up to this fight, and I'm wondering, is he not trying to put too much pressure on himself? What does that mean? I don't know. There's a lot of interesting questions surrounding this one.
Yeah, from Pacquiao's mysterious calf muscles to the fact that, are Floyd's hands still there? I mean, they were fairly brittle. Don't forget, he retired because of his hands. Will that come back to haunt him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some, I was talking with one writer here in Las Vegas. I'll leave it anonymous because this is very much a sort of a filing under maybe light conspiracy theory, but he believes that a lot of these rumors about or reports about Pacquiao's health have actually been intentional plants meant to throw people off the trail. That Pacquiao has actually had an incredible training camp and has looked better than anyone than he has in a long time because, frankly, he is very motivated for this fight. I mean, the last time he was an underdog in a fight was when he fought Oscar De La Hoya, and we all know who that turned out.
Yeah, and it's funny because he hasn't thrown off the Vegas bookmakers. They're claiming that the large money is on Floyd, but pretty much all the small money is going towards Pacquiao. So the boxing fans are pretty much dictating that Pacquiao will win.
Well, I'm looking at the odds right now. It opened on February 20th. Pacquiao was plus 200 underdog. So basically 2-1, and now on April 28th, it's down to 170, plus 170. So obviously the money is going on Manny Pacquiao, and I'm curious to see if it continues to do so.
It's going to be a great fight. Will it live up to Fight of the Century?
I think it will be difficult for it to live up to Fight of the Century in the sense that. Floyd is a defensive genius, a sort of a tactical marvel, and fights like that, fighters like that don't necessarily lend themselves to fights that qualify for Fight of the Century status. However, it's hugely interesting. I could see the outcome being profoundly meaningful, even if the sort of round by round action of the fight is not.
Oh, completely real. I think we need to see the best of Pacquiao in order to sort of see if he can stake his legacy. He's had many great fights. Could he top them off? I just don't think he can. I think he's been in so many wars with Morales, with Barrera. You know, I feel as though he's coming towards the end of his lifeline where he may not have it still. Especially at the highest possible level.
Yeah, I mean, you could say the same thing about Floyd, though. I mean, certainly the hand speed is still there, but, you know, you wonder about the foot speed. Yeah, it's a good fight. I personally think the fight is closer than the odds are indicating. I think it's closer to a toss-up. You know, whether Pacquiao, you know, will get the decision, certainly I'd like to trust the referees. But I don't know. I really think this is very, very close to a toss-up. And it's one of the reasons we wanted this fight for so long, because it is a very sort of interesting stylistic matchup in contrast.
And lots of money are actually going behind a draw as well. I saw a couple of 100,000 bets.
Yeah, I mean, well, a draw, I'm looking at the sheet right now. It opened at 22-1. And now it is 6-1.
Huge drop there.
Which is a huge drop. It actually mirrors something that I saw with Canelo. I think in that fight there was a lot of you know, suspicion that maybe if it would have gone to a draw, so they could have done it again. So who knows?
Will they do it again this time?
I don't think they will. I think this one was so hard to make. That it really feels like a one-off. I think it's very unlikely that we see Mayweather-Pacquiao 2, with the obvious exception being if there's a sort of controversial finish or ending or something that begs a second installment. I just don't think they'll do it by default.
So, I mean, I only see a rematch if Pacquiao wins, to be fair. I mean, I don't see why Floyd will give him a rematch if he wins. If Floyd wins, that is. So, it's,
I think Floyd knows this is going to be a tough fight, and frankly, I think that's why he's been so quiet about it.
And he's also said he's fallen out of love with boxing, which is interesting.
I mean, even in today's, you know, I was at the Grand Arrivals today. I mean, he sounded like an older guy. You know, I mean, he's very sort of quiet and muted up there. You know, listen, if you really want to go all the way with it. And I'm not necessarily there yet, but I've heard people say this. You know, there are people that are saying, you know, maybe this is a fight. Maybe Floyd's saying, you know, listen, I am towards the end. If I am going to lose, may as well be this guy Pacquiao. I may as well get paid a lot of money for it. You know, you don't want it to be, you don't want that perfect record to end against an Amir Khan or something. Do you know what I mean? So it's interesting. There's a lot of ins and outs to this fight, and I think that's why it's going to make as much money as it will.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We're slowly coming up to the last minute of the show. We keep it strictly under 45 minutes. Yeah, it's 44 minutes on the dot now.
Where did the time go? Where did it go?
I tell you where it will come back. We'll get that time back on Saturday. We'll be filming live from Las Vegas Saturday afternoon, East Coast time, Saturday morning, West Coast time. And again, we don't know...
Here?
Sorry?
You're coming here?
I fly out tomorrow night.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I fly out tomorrow night, and yeah, we'll see how they're going to lay out the red carpet for us, and who's going to be in the media centre Saturday. That's always a fun game.
You never know who's going to be there. You never know who's going to turn up for a big fight in Las Vegas, you know?
Yeah. I mean, no doubt Mike Tyson will be there. I'm pretty sure Holyfield will be there. Great. I tell you what was one interesting thing. The fans were okay with Lennox Lewis and Gennady, but they absolutely love Bruce Willis at the fight. Maybe he'll be in Vegas.
They did love Bruce Willis at that fight. There's no question about it.
Yeah, completely threw me off that one. Did not expect that.
Well, you can see dead people.
Yeah, you can. We have to end it there on that note. We have to thank God, Al Heyman. Cheers to Chris Algieri, to Wladimir Klitschko, Bryant Jennings, Kevin Rooney for helping us get it all set up, Gennady Golovkin for time he spent with us. Any thank yous on your end, Brian?
Bob Arum. Always thank Bob Arum.
Got to thank Bob. Uncle Bob, you are looking down at us.
Bob, thank you for listening. Thank you so much.
Cool, and we will return and speak to you again on Saturday, so ta-ra.
Looking forward to it. See you soon.
Right.